I am Laura Dixon, and you are listening to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast, episode number 186, Protein Thoughts. Welcome to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast. I'm going to teach you how to get out of your diet brain so that you too can be naturally thin for life. No counting, restricting, or obsessing. I am going to take the mystery out of it for you so that you can become naturally thin starting today. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello, friends. Are you ready to talk about protein? If you love how you think about protein, you have a great relationship with protein, then feel free to listen to this episode or maybe not. Keep doing what you're doing if that is where you are at. But this episode is really intended for those of you who feel a little trapped by protein or like beholden to making sure you eat enough protein and you're kind of trying to micromanage your protein intake, and sometimes you want some and sometimes you don't, and you're not sure if you're eating enough protein or should you eat more protein or a different kind of protein, and like you have a lot of protein thoughts. And so I want to offer to you today a potentially different perspective than you've probably heard before when it comes to protein. And I'm going to share with you how I think about protein and offer ways for you to potentially question how you currently think about protein and really understand your unique body and what your unique body is trying to tell you, and potentially what your unique body needs when it comes to protein. So I personally do not believe that there is one way of eating for 100% of the humans 100% of the time, right? I think we are a collectively very intelligent group of human beings. And if that was true, we would have figured it out by now. And I've seen it not only in my own journey, but in thousands of other people, just in watching other humans and in coaching other women in their relationship with food and their bodies. And what I've uncovered and found for myself and those other women to be true is that what our body needs changes day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. And what my body needs is going to be and can potentially be very different than what some other body needs. And so while I don't believe there is a way that every single one of us should be eating every single day, 100% of the time, I do believe that we should question the status quo and what is either the latest fad or what is most popular, and what some arbitrary rules may be that you are following. I do believe in questioning what we're doing when we have cues that it may not be serving us. So I'm going to share with you today a little bit just about how protein works physiologically in your body, and then some ways to maybe question your current relationship with protein. There is a book called Proteinaholic by an MD, and his name is, I think, Dr. Garth Davis. And he does, in that book, he does promote a plant-based lifestyle. And again, I don't think that's a hard and fast rule that every single human should follow. I think every single human should find the way that works for them in their season and phase of life. But it does provide an interesting perspective from a medical doctor who used to prescribe a high protein, low carb diet to a lot of his patients. And through a bunch of research he's done, and if you're interested, you can of course go read it, he found for himself and for a lot of the people that he worked with that wasn't serving them. And he talks about just our cultural obsession with protein and how people are so obsessed with protein. So for me personally, I used to follow a plant-based lifestyle. And it was to try to force my body to lose weight. It was not because I thought that's what served me. It was just the arbitrary rule of the year that I was following for several years. And now I did learn a lot about my body when I was following a fully plant-based way of eating. And one of the things I learned is that I just feel incredible without dairy. And then I got pregnant with my first son. So this was almost 7 years ago now. And I could not get enough red meat and berries. And so I did have a slight iron deficiency. And so I worked on that through both my diet and supplementing with iron. But I just could not get enough red meat and raspberries in particular, but like raspberries and strawberries and blueberries. And not only throughout the pregnancy, but also while I was breastfeeding. And before I was pregnant with him, I was eating a ton of salads and feeling really good with salads. And I for the past about 7 years, haven't gone through a phase where I eat salads consistently. They just don't serve my body. I don't feel good when I eat a ton of them on a regular basis, and my body feels really good with other ways of eating. And now again, so about 7 years later, I am following a plant-based way of eating because I just noticed over the last several months, especially when I stopped breastfeeding my third child, which was several months ago, I stopped breastfeeding him. I noticed I started to feel really uncomfortable when I would eat different animal proteins. And so then I tried eating different kinds and different varieties and sourced in different ways. And I just noticed I wasn't feeling as optimal as I was when I was not eating animal protein. And so that's just where I am in this season and phase of my life, is I am not choosing to eat animal protein. But not because someone told me I should or I shouldn't, but just because that's what my body is saying to me. And I imagine, I don't know, I'll see how it goes, if and when I do get pregnant again, that potentially my body will be ready for some animal protein. Again, I don't know. What I just believe so firmly is that our bodies have an innate wisdom, and they are trying to tell us the optimal way of eating for our body in this given moment through the cues in our body. And so that is the lens through which I'm going to share with you how I think about protein in a way that may help you change your relationship with protein. So I want to start with just a basic understanding of how protein works physiologically in our body. And of course, if you want more details and you're like a research nerd, you can go down some research rabbit holes per the Googles. But I want to just understand and lay the foundation of how protein works in our body if you didn't know this. So when we think about protein traditionally, and when we talk about protein just like in conversation or in our society, we often are referring to animal protein. So we're referring to eating a steak or eating some peanut butter or like a protein shake or some nuts or something that on a label will say it has a certain number of grams of protein. But our bodies have a different way of viewing protein. So proteins in our bodies, they are the building blocks of our bodies. They create and rejuvenate cells. They regulate a lot of our functions inside of our body, and they grow our nails and our hair. And there's so many ways in which proteins support our body, and they really are how our bodies operate, and they are the building blocks of our body. So when we eat what we call protein, when you eat a steak, it doesn't go into your body and stay protein from your body's perspective. So it's kind of like your brain's perspective when it thinks about protein. And when you say protein in the form of food, that doesn't necessarily equate to how your body always views protein. So your body doesn't take a protein, quote unquote, like an animal protein, and it doesn't just stay protein. So when you eat food, your body needs to digest that food, and it will break apart what you eat into amino acids. And so there are 20 amino acids that we need, and those 20 amino acids form in different ways and different combinations to create all of the proteins that our body needs. So amino acids are how our body creates the proteins that it needs to function at its most optimal level. And our body can generate about 11 of those amino acids by itself. And then there are 9 amino acids that we need from food, and they're called the 9 essential amino acids. Now, there is some research that is starting to potentially indicate that a really healthy gut may be able to create some of those 9 essential amino acids by itself, but we're not going to go down there. So I want you to just think about from that kind of standard perspective that there are 11 amino acids that our body can produce itself, and then there's 9 that we need to get from outside sources from our food. And when our body eats food, it digests that food and it breaks it down into amino acids, and then it will rebuild those amino acids in chains by using peptides to put those chains together. So when you eat food, your body will break it down into amino acids and then rebuild the protein structures from those amino acids. So even if you eat a complete protein, and a complete protein means it has those 9 essential amino acids that your body cannot produce by itself, even if you could eat a complete protein, it's not as if those 9 amino acids just like stay in their chains and then they don't do anything. They just go into your body as a complete protein. Your body still breaks them all down down, but then it has all of those 9 amino acids that it needs, and it will go and build the body's protein in the way that is needed for your body during that day, that time, that season of life, whatever your body needs in that moment. Your body will go and put those 20 amino acids together in the combinations and the forms that it needs. And so even if you don't eat all of the 9 amino acids that your body needs, those 9 essential amino acids in every bite or every meal, but you get them throughout, your day to day and your week to week, your body will have everything that it needs. And there are complete proteins and a lot of complete proteins in plant-based foods. And so a lot of times people think they need to eat animal protein because it's usually a complete protein, meaning it has those 9 essential amino acids. But if you eat beans and rice or hummus and pita or peanut butter toast or buckwheat or quinoa or chia seeds, those are all plant proteins that have those 9 essential amino acids. And so I just think it's really important to understand that protein goes into your body in whatever form it takes. When we use the word protein, when we're talking about our diet, it goes into our body and then our body breaks all of our food down. And when our body is building protein and using those amino acid chains, it takes those amino acids individually and puts them together with peptides to make the protein that our body needs. And so I want to just start there so that you can understand that it's no different than thinking you need to eat like all of the food groups in one meal. You don't necessarily need to eat a complete protein every single time you eat in order for your body to have a sufficient amount of those 9 essential amino acids to do what it needs to do. And so I want you to consider, what if your body, when you're tuned into it, will tell you exactly what type of food sources that it wants to get its quote-unquote protein from. And there is some research that suggests that too much protein can actually lead to high blood sugar, and that when you are eating especially certain types of protein, it can cause spikes in your glucose level. And it can create like that high blood sugar, jittery feeling in your body. And now that's not true for everyone all of the time again, but you never know until you start really listening to your unique body. And when you understand that your body isn't simply just like recycling food protein in the sense of taking what we call protein and just like taking it into your body and then, it just converts right away into new skin cells, that it actually has to go through a process to be able to do that, you can understand that getting those 9 essential amino acids for your body in a variety of sources can be one way to do that. And it may be the optimal way that your body does that for you. And what I hear very often is people will say sometimes, well, but if I don't eat enough protein, I'm really hungry like an hour after I eat. And so what I will get as far as questions inside Naturally Thin for Life, sometimes people will have questions about protein, or what I hear so often from women, especially women who exercise regularly, is like, I just need to make sure I get enough protein. And it doesn't come from a place where they just feel like they're really honoring and understanding their body. They're just like on a constant hunt to find the right protein and the right amount of protein. So I offer for you to just ask yourself, is that even true for me? Is it true that if I don't eat quote unquote enough protein, am I really hungry an hour or 2 hours after I eat? Another possibility with that, if that is something you experience, is that it is possible that you just aren't used to your body in a very energy efficient mode. So when you are digesting food and a lot of either protein or animal protein, or a lot of times like animal protein and different types of protein with a bunch of different kinds of food. And so there might just be a lot happening digestively in your body. And so if you're used to the distraction of your body digesting your protein or whatever you just ate, then when you start to experience the absence of that digestive load, you can mistake that feeling for hunger. And so when your body is digesting food, it takes a lot of your body's energy to go through that process. And so if you have a high digestive load and it takes a lot of energy for your body to digest the food that you're eating, you may feel kind of like a satisfaction feeling. But what you may be kind of mistakenly thinking that is, you may be mistakenly thinking that satisfaction for really just a high digestive load. And so then when you start to potentially get to know your body and nuance how you are eating and tuning into your body, sometimes people will start to mistake hunger for simply the absence of that digestive load. So they will just start to feel like really light and lean and fit, and they'll be like, maybe I'm hungry. But what they're really noticing is their body just isn't being weighed down by all of that energy going to digesting their food. And this is why it's so important to unpack and unwind any negative relationship with hunger. So a lot of us who've been dieting and following a lot of strict rules have either been forcing ourselves to be hungry all the time or trying to avoid hunger at all costs or being worried that if we get too hungry, we're going to eat in a way that's out of control. And so for a lot of us that have dieted, we don't have a great relationship with hunger. This is why it's so important to rebuild and heal your relationship with hunger so that you can simply see hunger as a calm communication tool from your body so that then you will be able to easily distinguish, okay, is this actual true physical hunger? Or is this simply me noticing my body's just become like an energy efficiency machine and I'm no longer being weighed down by my body going through this kind of cumbersome, burdensome digestive process. And so now I just get to feel energized most of the day. And so when you're not used to feeling that way, all of the sudden, when you do start to feel that way, when you start to listen to your body, really get to know the food that serves your body, you're eating at your optimal hunger level and you're stopping when you feel energized and lean and fit and how you want to feel, whatever your optimal satisfaction level is, you may start to notice that you feel a lot lighter in your body. You feel a lot more energized in your body. And it's just why it's really important to have a healed, calm, friendly, kind relationship with hunger so that you can truly, truly know what your physical hunger level is. So I want to talk about some ways and tactical ways for you to understand what your body may be telling you about protein. And first of all, if you want to release the reins of protein, just permission granted. Like I was saying before, just firmly believe that we can really understand a lot of information from research that people do on other people's bodies, right? And you can find a lot of research both in favor of animal protein and in favor of against animal protein. I don't have a thought about it other than find what serves your body, right? And just the fad right now, when you read a lot of weight loss research, when you hear a lot of what's happening with different diets, a lot of the fad is in favor of a lot of protein. And I personally think some of that comes from a lack of understanding around hunger and the importance of hunger and the importance of understanding what hunger is trying to tell you and how to answer hunger and that fear around hunger. But I also believe that research is not intended to be a hard and fast truth for all humans every single day, all of the time. Because then how can there be research that contradicts, right? What's true for one person isn't necessarily true, especially for all people, when it comes to something as unique as your body. Your body has unique energy needs, unique hormone levels, a unique environment that you live in, a unique physical environment, a unique emotional environment, different types of sleep, different movement levels, and your unique goals for your body. And so research can be a beautiful thing of knowledge that you acquire about a potential that could be true for you. But the best research you can do is on your own body. Become the expert of your own body by really, really listening to it, and don't outsource that expertise to someone else. You can glean information and knowledge from someone else, but the wisdom of your own body, the expertise of your own body is yours, even when it comes to protein. So just create more awareness and a willingness to try and see what works in your body. So here's how I would suggest that you get started on that. That you make a commitment that you will become the experts and the gleaner of wisdom from your unique body. So you're going to decide for just one day, what do I think for today or for tomorrow, if it's nighttime when you're listening to this, what do I think my optimal hunger level is for my body? And how do I want to feel when I'm done eating? And you're not going to think about any arbitrary rules about protein or macros or high carb or low carb or calories. You're going to throw that all out the window just for now. And you're just going to say, I'm just going to experiment, right? That's what scientists and researchers do. They experiment. I'm just going to create a hypothesis about what I think will feel best in my body. And then I'm going to test that hypothesis and I'm going to get some feedback. I'm going to make some observations. And then the next time I go to test that hypothesis, I will just be better and better and better at it. And so you ask yourself, what do I think the optimal hunger level is for my body? How do I want to feel when I'm done eating? I personally love to feel energized, lean, and fit. And you just think about for you, how do you want to feel when you're done eating? And so you know, okay, here's what I think my optimal hunger level is. And I use a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not hungry at all and 10 being very, very hungry. What do I think my optimal hunger level is? And how do I want to feel when I'm done eating? And then let me think about some foods that will allow me to feel that way. So in my example, that will allow me to feel energized, lean, and fit when I'm done eating. And without thinking about any arbitrary rules, without thinking about how many calories that food has, without thinking about the carb profile of that food, without thinking about the protein that that food has, but just like really, really asking your body, imagine you were asking your body this, hey body, if you want to feel energized, lean, and fit, how do you do that? When you're at a hunger level of a 7, and just see what wisdom your body will tell you. And then you decide that, okay, that might be what I'm going to eat today when I get to that hunger level, right? And you might get to that hunger level a couple of times throughout the day. And then you eat in a way that allows you to feel energized, lean, and fit. And then you see what happens and you make some observations and you start to notice, oh, this food combination allows me to feel energized, lean, and fit. This food combination doesn't. This time of day does. This type of food does. This type of food doesn't, right? This type of protein does. This type of protein doesn't. And you'll just start to really tune into and trust your body because your body is giving you that constant feedback. And so when you want to question your current relationship with protein, I suggest you start by making the commitment to becoming the own expert of your body. And then going to do some research on your body. You create a hypothesis, you test that hypothesis, you make some observations, and then maybe you continue on and you're like, this hypothesis seems to be accurate. Or maybe you're like, it doesn't. Let me go and test some new hypotheses and make some new observations and see what results I get. And this part is crucial for my type A perfectionists. It does not need to be perfect. I think a lot of the time we try to find some rule, right? So in this example, like some protein rule, that if I just eat this amount of protein, then I'll be able to lose weight, or then I won't get hungry, or then I'll be able to build this amount of muscle, or whatever your goal is. And we think that if we just find the right rule, then it will be perfect all of the time. But what happens when you think it needs to be perfect all of the time, that when you are a human being and it inevitably isn't perfect all of the time, anytime it doesn't feel perfect to you, that's when it turns into, well, just, forget it, screw it, it doesn't matter. And then you start to eat in a way that is not honoring to your body. And living in your body and understanding your body's unique needs and energy requirements, it's a continual learning process. So for me, even I have spent years and years and years and years getting to know my body and understanding my body. And I am at my naturally thin weight and I have been here for years. But I recently, this was only a couple of days ago, we have they're savory chickpea pancakes and they are so tasty. And they're kind of like putsy and my kids don't love them. So sometimes I'll make them really just for Ryan and I. And I made them, and I've made them before and eaten them multiple times. And in the recipe, she has this sriracha aioli that you can make to go along with them. And I love these pancakes, and they're so good. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to make the sauce to go with it. And so I did it, and I made the sauce, and I ate it. And if I was being super honest with myself while I was eating that sauce with those chickpea pancakes, there was a really quiet whisper that was a little like, I'm not sure the sauce is going to feel so good. Like with a question mark, not with like a certainty of like, for sure, the sauce is not going to feel good if you keep eating this. But if I look back in hindsight, there was a moment where I was like, I don't know if this sauce is going to feel super great in my body. But I didn't feel the effect of that sauce immediately. But about 10 minutes after I was done eating, I thought, I'm not starting to feel so great. And then about 20 minutes later and a half an hour later, and I even went to bed early because I was really not feeling good. I felt so bloated, so uncomfortable. Now, so bloated and so uncomfortable for me is about 1% of what it used to be years ago when I used to binge. But it's just the contrast between feeling uncomfortable and feeling energized, lean, and fit is just so stark to me now. And so I was like, wow, I am just not feeling good at all. So I was drinking a bunch of water because that always helps. And it helps me, my body kind of do what it needs to do and be ready to eliminate in the morning and all the things. So I woke up in the morning and I was feeling a little better. And I just, throughout the day was like, I want to get back to feeling as good as I can. And so then the next night after that, I was really hungry. And so I ate a little later than I usually do at 6 p.m. And I ate a little more in quantity than I usually do at that time. And again, I didn't feel as optimal as possible. And so now I'm like, this is 2 days in a row. I'm going to bed not feeling the way I typically feel. So then I decided the next day, I'm like, okay, today I want to feel as light and energized as possible. And I want to feel that way going to bed, on night number 3 here. And so I did that the third night. Now, here's the crazy thing. I weighed myself and I weighed within a pound of my naturally thin weight every single day, those 3 days. So I was not doing this perfectly, but I learned a lot about my body. I know that I'm not going to make that sauce again for myself. And I didn't say screw it and continue to compound feeling uncomfortable. And so this is what I want to share with all of you. When you are becoming the own expert of your body, there is some trial and error involved. There are some hypotheses, there is some testing, there are some observations. But what happens is you build this incredible, unbreakable trust with your body. Nowhere along these several days where I wasn't feeling as optimal as possible was I like, oh, my body's broken. It doesn't want me to lose weight. There's something wrong. I'm like, no, my body is telling me exactly what's up. It's telling me it doesn't like to eat this late. It doesn't like to eat this amount this late. It's telling me it doesn't like the combination of these pancakes with the sauce. It's just telling me so much information that I know. And so now I want you to become the expert of your own body and just be willing, with protein in particular, to just release the protein reins and get to know what truly, truly serves your body. And the last thing I'm going to say too is that if you are not losing weight in the way you want, you're not feeling as energized and lean and fit as you know is possible for you, then maybe it's just time to question what you're doing, right? Maybe what the rules you're following or what you're doing simply isn't working. And I will hear this from women who will say, well, but I'm going through perimenopause, or I'm going through menopause, or I'm postmenopause, or I'm in this season of life, or this thing, or I'm working out in this way. And so therefore I need to eat protein in this way. And they're following some arbitrary rule, but they're not feeling the way they want to feel. They're not losing weight, and sometimes they're gaining weight, and they're just not feeling the way and the optimal way that their body could be feeling. And so what I'll see is they're following some rule, just that they read in a book or they picked up on a diet, but their body is trying to tell them that what they're doing is not working. And so when you understand that your body is designed to feel as optimal, energized, as efficient, as lean and fit as possible for you every single day, and it's trying to tell you all of the ways in which to help you get there, then if you're gaining weight or you're not losing weight or you're not feeling as energized as possible for you, those are just ways that your body's trying to say, hey, yo, what you're doing isn't working. And so then it's time to test a new hypothesis. Go out and actually put that to the test, make some observations, and gain some insight and learning so that you become the expert of your own body, even when it comes to protein. And if you want to dive deeper into this and you really want to build that unshakable trust with your body, I invite you to join us inside the Naturally Thin for Life membership. And when you join before August 1st, you get to join us for the monthly deep dive of how to outsmart your diet brain. There are so many diet myths that prevent you from having the freedom and peace of being the expert of your own body to decide exactly when, what, and how much to eat in order for you to feel as energized, lean, and fit and optimal as possible. And so when you join the Naturally Thin for Life membership before August 1st, you get access to that limited time live course Outsmart Your Diet Brain included in your membership to really fast track the rebuilding process with your unique body. All right, my friends, I will talk with you all next time. Friend, if you are loving what you are learning here on the podcast, you have to come check out my Naturally Thin for Life program. It is my on-demand lifetime access program where I teach you brand new concepts not taught here on the podcast. And I will walk you through exactly how to implement all of the tools I teach you here so that they become just a part of you. You will learn exactly how to understand your specific brain and your specific body so that you become naturally thin for the rest of your life and you no longer struggle with your weight. Inside of the Naturally Thin for Life program, you can also receive live help so that you consistently make progress and reach your goal. I will teach you how to accelerate your naturally thin journey in a sustainable way so that the change becomes permanent. The best part is that it's risk-free. You either love it or I will give you your money back. If you are ready to finally be naturally thin for life, join us at lauradixoncoaching.com/work with me. That's LAURADIXON coaching.com and click on the Work With Me tab. I cannot wait to see you there.